Welcome to Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share their passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with the Latina perspective. This is season 4, focused on artists and creators. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola! Now, you all know that I'm a photographer. And if you don't, you're new here, welcome. I am a photographer when I'm not doing a podcast, when I'm not speaking, when I'm not homeschooling my kids. And today I'm talking with a friend that I've collaborated with to help me design mood boards for my prints when I first started out. Mylene is an interior designer and has an amazing eye when it comes to bringing a space to life. I was even able to get a few prints styled in her home for me to use for marketing when I was first launching my website. And you'll hear all about it during our conversation. So enjoy. Hello, friend. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. Today I'm speaking with Mylene. She's an interior designer. We have been friends for a long time, and I always enjoy the time that I get to spend with you. I feel like our conversations are always so fruitful and relatable. Like I feel like we kind of have similar situations and stories, and I am just always so encouraged by you. So I'm glad to have you on the podcast today. Before we start, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Okay. So I am Mylene Raspado. I am an interior designer um, here in the Chicagoland area. I was born and raised in Chicago, and since then I've moved just outside of Chicago, but I still consider myself a Chicagoan. Um, and I service the Chicagoland area, and I recently just begun my interior design business within the last year and a half. I went to school for it. I got my master's in interior design, and my undergrad is in elementary education. So it was a little career shift we could talk about later. I am a mama of three under 6, and all surprises. We Yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I do content creating on Instagram as well. So I like to bridge interior design with what I present on Instagram as well. So that's me.
I am so proud of you and how far you've come from when I first met you. I started following you and I instantly fell in love with your designs, your aesthetic, your vision for coming up with something out of nothing. It was like exciting for me to see. And then once I got to know you, you're so um such a genuine and caring person, and I'm just so thankful to have you as a friend. Why don't you walk me through how you got to interior design? Did you always want to be in the creative field?
Yes. Well, thank you for all that, by the way. I love you too. And I love how we just met and we just, connected and have since then shared our love for just the creatives. Yeah. So at a young age, I was always in love with design, changing around my room, flipping things around, helping mom change. She was always changing and the furniture places in our placement in our home, and it's something I just enjoyed and I gravitated to. But I also gravitated to teaching, so I was like the one teaching stuffed animals in my bedroom, and it was just kind of a love for both. So when I got out of high school, I actually went to a design school downtown in Chicago, and I was scheduled, was signed up, ready to go, and then started to rethink, okay, well, maybe teaching is more the safer route. Maybe it's more stable. Majority kind of hearing in in the back of my head, my parents and little things they would say, even though they were supporting me in going into this interior design school, just hearing those, oh, maybe it's more stable. Teaching is more stable. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to pursue teaching, and I could always fall back and go on into your design, pick it up later on. So I did that. I went, got my undergrad in teaching, and I was still wanting to, just felt like it wasn't where I was supposed to be, you know? Um, so went through it, graduated, and I became a substitute teacher for a number of years and still found myself in a classroom trying to design the classroom in my head, still just having this like strong passion for design within my home, everywhere I went. And I said, you know what, I gotta pursue my real passion. I just gotta go back and pray, and that God is gonna just use the two, you know, weave the two together eventually, that those 4 years wasn't, you know, a loss. And yeah, so then I went to a career changers program, to the same school that I initially had was going to pursue, and they had a career changers program, and I was able to get my master's in interior design. So it was supposed to be a 3 year program. It took me almost four, um, because I was like, I got married toward the end of my schooling, and so right when I started my thesis, right when I started that semester, we found out we were pregnant. So that was a big thing. We were 6 months into our marriage. So it took me a little bit longer, but we did it. And yeah.
Were you teaching, like, as a substitute teacher while you were going to school, or were you able to get a creative job?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. No, I was substitute teaching while I was going to school. I was taking night classes mostly. I did at one point have a sort of a kind of an internship at a small design. She's a firm, but she has a shop where she basically flips furniture, um, refinishes them, and custom wallpaper. And then she had design services. But I was just kind of an intern in the shop. I did that for maybe a year, and then I ended it when I got pregnant because I had a rough pregnancy. So, um, but yeah, I was kind of dabbling into both. So I was still um, in the teaching world with substitute teaching, and then night classes. So,
You said that you were in school when you got married, right?
mhm.
So, were you able to, like, how did the designing of your wedding go with, especially since this is what you were doing for school and like you were pursuing your passion?
Yeah, it was a very hectic season. I mean, grad school is a beast in itself. So planning a wedding and then being in that was rough. But I was one of those that had my wedding plan since I was like, I don't know how old. I had a binder. I mean, before Pinterest days, you know, I had a binder with clippings, magazine clippings, and I've always had like like old school soul to me, and I've always loved the 20s. So I knew it wanted to be a 1920s themed wedding. So it was just kind of an easy thing for me. It was a natural thing. It's something I used to do on the side. On the side was event planning. I do that within my church too. I help with the events and planning of it. So um yeah, it was basically already planned for the most part. So it was just like those fine details of location and all that. But I had been thinking about this prior to.
That's so fun. I
Mm.
I did get to see pictures of your wedding and it was beautiful. And I think that what drew me to you was seeing the designs that you did for church. Like you
Mhm.
really created beautiful things for the events at church, and the way that you did it was so creative. I am thinking about like this wall that you made and you used napkins and it didn't look like napkins, but I was blown away. I was so impressed. Why don't you walk us through those kinds of designs that you do when you have a specific budget to work with?
Yes, that's one of the things that I find myself I design within a budget a lot. Especially when I'm working with events. It's usually those that want help and there's this tight budget, but it's fun because it pushes you to think creatively. Okay, I want that look, but how do I get it on a budget? So like that, for instance, that napkin wall that you were speaking of was actually just like a floral wall. So I mean, if you think of filling a whole backdrop with floral, that is very pricey. So we can where I get a lot of inspiration from is just pictures or just like, my surroundings or where I'm going. So I'll look at something and I'm like, how can I, is there a way I can create that without it being that, like, so without it being like a floral. So I had Pinterest something, I had saw something about these napkins and someone had did like just a heart, they made a heart out of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if we did these napkins? So we tried it. And I think that's the fun thing about um not putting yourself in a box, but just trying things. It's okay if you do it and it just, it falls on your face. It's okay. It's all about like the process and what you learn. And so that was one of those things that ended up, it was in my head. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And it came out so awesome. So I was proud of that. But that's how it is a lot with just even interiors. Um, I think people think that they need to spend so much money, to get these beautiful homes and beautiful interiors. And yeah, you can spend that money if you like, and it will be beautiful, but you can do it on a budget too. And I like to mix high and low items. So, maybe you just go cheaper on the smaller items and you are more um what's the word? You spend a little bit more on those items that are going to be with you for a while, those bigger items. But you could have a beautiful home on a home goods budget, TJ Maxx. Like I've designed plenty of spaces off of those box stores. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that we can do a lot with a little.
Let's take a quick break because I'm so excited to announce it's finally happening. Join me on a guided trip to Mexico City this June as we learn about Mexican history, traditional cooking, and immerse ourselves in experiences that will cultivate thoughtful conversation about ourselves and our ancestral legacies. This is the time to pour into yourself and enjoy a meaningful and curated trip where I take care of everything in Mexico and all you have to do is enjoy. To get all the details and apply, visit garinamora.com. Now back to our guest. I love seeing how you redesign your house, like with the things that you have, and just move them around in the space or use them in different spaces and create a completely different feel and look. I'm specifically thinking about your wicker baskets that I've seen like on several different walls in your previous home, in this home, and it's just so interesting to me to like how you see one piece of furniture and you can see so many different options for it, where a lot of people just buy one thing and then once they want to redo something, they'll like get rid of it. Uh, so I love how your designs are always intentional and your purchases are intentional and you're like, how can I use this like uh, in the next design? How how do you like think through that stuff? How do you get inspired to see different designs with like one product? And maybe that's a huge question for you to answer, so
Yeah.
feel free to answer it in 2 parts, 3 parts, however you, see fit.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I that is a really good question, and I'm trying to see if I could dissect that. But I think what it comes down to is, and what I love most about design, doing design, is it's all about like storytelling. It's more than, I think some people don't really see the power in storytelling when it comes to interior design, but it's something that I'm very passionate about, and it really spurs all my design choices. Um so when I find pieces that really speak to me, not like the trend, but really like speak to me, whether it's the texture or it reminds me of places I've been to, it reminds me of my culture or it reminds me of my husband's culture, um, I just snag them because I know they speak to me, and when something speaks to me like that, I'll always find a space for it, Um, so that's one thing, is kind of looking deeper. I know it's like just a plant, but for instance, snake plants. When I look at snake plants, I think of my abuela. I think of my mom. That's what it reminds me of. So I always like to have a snake plant somewhere, or just plants in general. I think of my mom. I remember there was a time where I redesigned, I tried to help her, I think, with the living room, and I was like, Mama, you got too much plants. It's too many plants in here. And I was like trying to take out her plants. And now I'm like thinking about it, years later. I don't even think I was in school then. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was trying to take away her plants to put in just, things that didn't mean nothing to her, when she has always had a love for plants, which was passed down from my abuela. So I'm kind of going on a tangent, but just things that are meaningful, like when you shop and look in that way. I like to use mood boards a lot. I know you know that. And so a lot of times I try to have a mood board, even if it's just knowing the feel. I want to represent my Puerto Rican culture in this room. In the sunroom, we have a sunroom now in our home, and I know for a fact, I'm like, I want that to scream Puerto Rico. Like when you're in there, I want you to feel it. I want my mom to come in it and her to feel it and to take her back. Like that. I would feel if she like sat there and said something in that realm, like, oh man, this is taking me back. I would be like, that's it. I did it. That's like my design goal. Um, so just having that purpose, like significant purpose behind what you're doing, and not just going for the next trend that Target is offering, or these stores, or you see all over Instagram, but really thinking about things that speak to yourself, speak to your family. So there's a lot of storytelling, I think, in that, um behind a lot of the choices that I make. And then that's what makes it easier for me to take them to different points and places in my home, if that makes sense. Because it's still that same story. I'm just telling it in different ways within different spaces.
That's so interesting. I've never thought of design as being storytelling, but you're so right. Like the spaces that we're in, we want to feel comfort, we want to feel joy, we want to feel happy, we want to feel calm, we want to feel something, and that requires us to think deeper about the things that are in that room. How do you combine or elevate both you and your husband's culture in your home?
Yeah, that is something that I've been trying to do. I started it in our first home, and is combining it. My husband is Filipino, so I am Puerto Rican. There's actually a lot of overlap between our cultures, in our food, in our languages, just how we are. Even just our islands. If you just visit the two, there's a lot of similarities there. So it's actually hasn't been as hard as I thought it would be. Um, but implementing just different things, like for example, the bathroom that I've been working on in this home, it has I found a fabric that happened to be, well, I found out my husband had this childhood favorite folktale story. And he had mentioned it because he was talking about tattoos and he was like trying to get a tattoo to represent it. And I was like, let me jot this down. So I jot down the name. And for his birthday, I started just to typing in Google and looking up things of this book. I was looking for the book. In doing so, I came across a fabric that a Filipino artist had made off of the book, based off of the book. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome." I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm just gonna save it in my back pocket, you know? And so then when the opportunity came and we bought the house we've been in since this past fall, I'm like, what if somehow I made that into a wallpaper? Um, and I Googled and looking up, okay, fabric into wallpaper. And I had some Instagram buddies that I remember that they did put up fabric using like cornstarch and all these creative ways. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Long story short, I was able to contact um, the artist and I paid her for the digital work, and then I was able to find a brand who actually does. Um, you could take an image and you could create wallpaper out of it, and so that's what we did. So we have that in the bathroom, and it's some people, they don't know. They could come in and they just think, oh, it's a fun wallpaper for our kids' bathroom, but there's a story about it, and I love just like, "Oh, well, actually, this is it." It's my husband's favorite story, and oh my goodness, and even just my in-laws, they're like, they love it, because it tells that story. Um, so that is like a very in your face way, I guess, because it's like a literal Filipino story made into a wallpaper. Um, but other ways are just simple ways could be just our family photos or, of the grandparents, of my abuelos and abuelas, and then his lolos and lolas. That's how you say it in Tagalog. Having images around of them. Um, I have images of his childhood home in the Philippines, of my mom's, the house she grew up in Puerto Rico, little things like that. And then all the way down to colors. So for this home, the color palette is based off of a lot of those colors that you see on these beautiful tropical islands that you go to, right? We always see like the colored trims and doors, those painted bright, beautiful colors. So I'm really excited to infuse that within this home. All the haciendas that they have, just the tile work, um, those little touches that just remind you of home, even like practical speaking in the kitchen, the pilon, displaying our spices in a way, that you're showcasing. There's just so many little ways that you can infuse your culture and make a beautiful home. And so I'm very early on in starting that in this home, but I'm so excited. I can't wait to just get all the ideas out.
Yeah, and do you see more people wanting and desiring to, like, have their culture represented in their homes?
I feel like I have been seeing it more. Um, I don't know if it's the fact of people in the last couple years of being home so much that they realize one, things weren't functioning right in their home as they thought it were, but also that it wasn't reflecting them and their needs. I think they were able to be upfront with that. um, but also I feel like especially in our generation, there's a lot of us that are really just wanting to like pull back and just go deeper within our culture and our families. I think a lot of us have been, I know it for myself, I just feel like you get, um, I don't know, I was just so removed almost from it, um, that you miss it. It's the heartbeat. It's what makes you you and who you are, and you just want to display that and capture that. I think part of that was we lost my abuela in 2020, and I just realized that there was just so much loss with her death that I wish I spend more time just talking to her about, her time in Puerto Rico, and just sitting there watching her really taking the time when she was making pasteles and like going through the process. Um, and so there's kind of this yearning to get that back and to make sure, which you understand that full well, like our kids understand it. Our kids are getting those moments. Because I grew up, I don't speak Spanish fluently, and that's something that ah, it hurts my soul in a way. I just want, more. So anyway, I'm on a tangent, but design, this is something that I could grasp with my hands and that I could keep and I can infuse and I can bring into my home in the way that my mind works, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I've been seeing that trend. Well, and it's not even a trend. Like I have been seeing more people seeing the importance of hanging on to their culture as opposed to not, and just following the trends that are out there as far as design. Um, has there been one or two like people that have really influenced you in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question a lot. I feel like I have just such this wide a range of people that I just seek and I look up to in so many different aspects. And some of them are not even in the design world, Um, you being one of them, you going back and stopping and realizing, hey, I want to infuse myself more in my culture. I want my kids to learn my culture and I want to share my culture with the world, through photography. That spoke a lot to me. And I feel like I could share my story through design, So you're one of them. There's numerous designers who tell their story well too. Um, there's Shavonda Garner, who I love, and you can find her on Instagram under Shavonda Garner. And she is an interior designer, and she's constantly always infusing her culture in her designs. And she was one of the first designers I think I followed on Instagram. And I was like, oh. Um, and seeing her do that was like, yes, just her infusing who she is naturally, not like forcing it. And there's more, it was hard in the beginning to find other Latinos that were in the interior design industry. Um, Especially when I first started on like the platform like Instagram. Um, it was very highly dominated by like a farmhouse suburb, is like either suburbs and just trying to infuse farmhouse in their suburban home. Very much white palettes, or then there was like the minimalist, and there was just not a lot of like color and pattern, all the things that I talked about that I feel like I see in the homes of that represent us. Um, and it was hard to find influence, but lately there has been a lot of more Latinos coming up, and so I'm just pulling from all of them. Anytime I see any Latino in the design industry, I'm like, yes, yes. And I always gain, they always are throwing out all these wonderful inspiration. Um, so yeah, it's like a melting pot of people. I can't, I don't have, I was trying to think, I'm like, is there like one? I'm like, no, because it's like all different people's in all different aspects of different careers. So yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. I was drawn to you because I too did not see many Latinas in the design space, and so I know I was really excited to find you, and we collaborated early on in my business with photography, and I was just so excited to work with someone who understood and got what I was trying to do. And um I'm thankful I used your home because it was so beautiful, and uh it really spoke to my work. I used your home as like a staging area for promo pictures, and I know we worked on mood boards, and I'm just so thankful to have you like in my life, and it's inspiring to see more people coming up into this space who are bringing their culture along with them. Now, I know we connected also because we both have kids, so I'd love to talk more about, um, the realities of being a working parent. I know we have, like we were staying at home when we first met, like, and being at home with the kids, and so like, there's that level of having to be flexible with, like, nap times and flexible with, like, eating schedules, but I'd love for you to talk more about the realities of having especially 3 littles in the home while also running a business and trying to start a business.
Oh man, it is hard. It is hard and it's not easy and man, so many times I wanted to throw in the towel and just say, "You know what? I'm just I just can't. I just can't do this. I can't do this business." Cuz I have one just this year. My oldest is now in school full time. My middle child, he goes 2 days a week, half day. And then I have my baby girl who just turned 2. Um, so I am the one home with them all day. Um, so whenever there's Zoom calls or we're scheduling things, I'm like either trying to schedule it when the hubby gets home, which he's a nurse and his schedule is not the same every day. It's just, we never know an exact time when he's coming home. Um, so trying to balance it all gets rough, but I've noticed that I need the creative outlet. It makes me better. The days that this past Friday, my parents came home over and they were watching the kids, and I had a full day of just like client work and doing client, and I hadn't had that in a while where I was like away from the home. Um, and it just felt so good. Like, I just felt like, this is it. I am in my calling. This is what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I am supposed to be doing this. But at the same time, I have been wrestling with this because they are so young. Like I said, 6 and under. And I feel like these are just pivotal like ages where you're building those foundation and that core value of like who they are. And I am back and forth and have this tug of war with it because I feel like sometimes I just need to be their mom. I need to just set aside the creativity, or not the creativity, but just the designer hat and just be their mom. And so it's funny that we're talking about this because I'm actually going to be taking a little break. I've closed the door for new clients till the fall, and I'm going to be taking a new break. I'm just working on the clients that are currently on my break plate, and then I'll even be taking a break from Instagram probably. And I'm just gonna focus on my babies, and like still while still in the background at a slower pace, working on website stuff, like building, going from I hit the ground running with my business. I didn't have time to do all of the just set myself up at a good spot with my system. So I'm kind of backtracking. So I feel like this next spring and summer is all about me laying the groundwork, relaying it, focusing in with my kids, and then on the business end, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's such a tug of war, but I do believe that we can do both. But we have to one understand that it's okay to reach out for help. We can't do it on our own, we need that help. um and two, it's okay to want more, than just being a mama, because we are more than being a mama. um and often we're a better mama when we tap into those giftings, that we've been gifted. So I'm at a weird place, not weird. I'm at I'm entering this, I don't know, this new journey for me with balancing that in a different way. Um, so yeah.
I can totally relate to everything you just said because I also had to take a step. I mean, I took a step back in 2020, but it was kind of like a forced step back. But I decided not to continue with what I was doing. Um, I decided to really take a step back from weddings and take a step back even from this last year. I took a step back from offering prints, which is what I started my current business on. But as we moved, like I knew that I needed to focus on my kids, like routine and like reestablishing that and focus on my kids' mental health and my own mental health during all of this. And I had to prioritize what was going to be the best for me and the family. And I just want to say that there's seasons where you're going to prioritize your uh, family life balance. And there's going to be times where you're going to have to like pour a little bit more into the business. And I remember when I was really like full speed in the wedding industry, I was like, we were growing our business, and I had to decide if I was going to hire help for someone to come into the home and watch the kids for me for a few hours, or if I was going to hire someone in the business. And at that point, like the kids were a lot younger, and I was starting to homeschool them. And so I was like, okay, I'm spending this dedicated time with them during the day. So maybe I can hire someone to just like hang out with them, play with them, take them to the park, take them to the zoo, and then I can go and continue like my meetings and editing photos and doing my work stuff in the afternoon. And at that time, it worked out really well. But that's what I mean, like having to think about where you want to spend your time in the season that you're in. Um, and so I am really like appreciative that you are real in saying like, you know what, right now I need to pour into the foundation of my kids and reassess how I want to build my business. Um, and I feel like I have been on that too the past few years. Like, how am I going to rebuild my business so that it works for my family life and what I want to pursue in the future? So I feel like parenting and work is messy. It doesn't always look the same for everybody, and it doesn't always look the same year to year either. I think I get a lot of questions like, how do you do like mom life balance? And I'm like, I don't. I just take it as needed. Like, I prioritize what's needed on the day, I prioritize what's needed in the semester, in the season, in the year. And there's no like blueprint. I wish there was. And at one point, I thought that there was, and I was looking for it, but it's it's not there. It's not there. Um, what do you think in your life has been that piece that really has kept you grounded through like the ups and downs of having to navigate life and work and all the things?
Well, I mean, I'm a woman of faith, so I lean on my faith a lot. Um, I lean on my family a lot too. My support system is everything. That's why when my husband talks about like moving to another state, I'm like, not unless they all come with me because I need that. They like, yes, I am a family girl through and through, and I need my family. So leaning in on my faith, leaning in, um, being close to my family, and just uh, I would say just kind of like what you were talking about of assessing, assessing where you are in the season, um, and not being afraid to slow down, and then not being afraid to speed it up and like put a little fire under you and get things done. But there's definitely a season for everything. And um, yeah, but that's where I rely on. I mean, my faith is everything to me, and I ground myself in that a lot, and just family. Whenever I'm feeling like crazy, I just feel like those two things are definitely what ground me.
I think that that's the important piece, that life will throw you curveballs and it won't always work out the way that you envision it, especially because you said like all your kids were a surprise. But as long as you have like something that is stable or grounding or whatever our listeners um, resonate with, like that is what is going to be important for um, like being able to have the mental space to make decisions. And I know that I talk a lot about community. And so, like, community, whether that is community in a church or community as in like your family or community as in your friends or other creatives or other people in your industry, I think it's important for us to rely on that and the support that we need. Um, so that way we can remind ourselves that we're not alone. And so for all my other mompreneurs, moms who are also working full time or working trying to start a business, like know that you're not alone. The feelings that you're feeling of uncertainty are totally normal. We all have felt that we want to give up. And I thank you for your honesty and sharing that. Um, but you're not alone. And together, like knowing that you're not alone, like we can help each other through the tough times. And I another thing that I really admire about you is your you knowing like what is your capacity and being willing to say like no, I need to take a step back from social media. I think I have given you like so many props because you've done it before and like have taken a step back so that you can like clear your mind. And I think that's so important, especially as creatives, to be able to take a step back and find that peace and rest so that we can create out of who we are as opposed to create out of necessity or what others expect of us. I'd love for you to talk more about a social media break, what that looked like for you, and then like how other people can also maybe put that in their plans or like not be so afraid to do it.
Oh my goodness, yes. Listen, I love me some Instagram. Okay, I love it. It has been that creative outlet for me through motherhood when all my pregnancies when I couldn't pursue my business, I was able to like let that out through Instagram. So I'm going to tell you this, I am a fan of Instagram. I'm a fan of the community that you can, I mean, create, within that, finding other mamas who are in the same industry or not, or just creatives and are just wanting that outlet. So I am. It's not an easy thing for me to do, when I take these breaks. But for me, it's just comes down to time. It takes a lot of time when you're on these social media platforms to produce content, even if you're not doing it in content creation, just consuming it, it takes up so much time. And what it comes down to for me is just opting for that slower pace. Like someone had mentioned, you're allowed to opt for a slower pace. And that really resonated with me because she went on to say how, um, like, you're not going to miss out on the seat at the table, if you opt out to slow down. Um, but actually, you may, in that slowness and in that time where you pull back, you may actually fuel more of your passion and your creativity because you're allowing yourself to rest and not see, sometimes it's you don't realize your brain is going on overdrive seeing all this content. Like we consume so much. It's really crazy, like how loud our minds get. So for me, the times I took the breaks usually were around the birth of my kids. Um, Obvious reasons, Um, I usually take the break during that time, and then like times like now where I just feel like I just need that break to refuel and to, even rebrand my business and to refocus on my kids. Um, so how you can take it is just do it. And you know what? At first I used to be scared. Will they still be there? The people who, my community? And yeah, if you've built a real community, they're gonna be there and they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're back. I missed you." And it's gonna be like the best. So it's okay. And if they're not there, then it wasn't the community that you really wanted. You'll be back and you'll be fueled up and ready to create and do whatever needs. And even if you're not a content creator, I think especially as moms, if we could just like pull back and sometimes take that break for social media, because again, I mean, I remember especially the early days of motherhood, we are on our phones so much. We're nursing, we're on our phones, we're doing something. We're just, and yeah, we're tired and we don't have much else to do. But man, if there's like s- just going back to the days of reading books or listening to podcasts or like just like doing things that I don't know, fuels our creativity in other ways. But I go on rants all the time. But opting for a slower pace, and it's okay. Your seat is not going to get pulled out from under you at the table. It may very well be the opposite. Your break may allow you to build your own table, to get your own seat somewhere else. I don't know. But I always come back refreshed, and I always come back with fresh new ideas that came from within. Um, so yeah, I always go on tangents with your questions. I don't even know if I answered that.
No, that was great. I think we shouldn't be afraid to go on a break from social media. I think especially now, like I'm trying to be more intentional about in-person meetings. Like I have spent so much time on Instagram, on TikTok, on Zoom. Like I am ready for the in-person collaborations. I'm ready for to make like relationships deeper. I built so many relationships on Instagram the past few years and I love it. I'm so grateful to have had this platform to like build relationships across the country. But now I'm ready to like see people and like start working like tangibly. I don't know if that makes sense.
You know what? No, it makes sense. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So last night I had my sister and two other friends over, and we just had a girls' night, like the first legit girls' night where there was no kids in the house, like at all. And we just hang out, talked, watched a movie, talked in between the movie. And it was so refreshing, and it reminded me because I feel like we kind of lost that in 2020, where we don't know how to act in person. We don't know how to get these like gatherings together. And it's like a push, like you really have to fight to like make it happen now for some reason. It's just all these obstacles now. But my goodness, if you are a mother, you're listening to this, get scheduled that girls' night that you guys have been talking about, that you've been rescheduling. I don't care if the whole crew can't make it. Just get it in and start doing it again because it was so refreshing. I laughed so hard. I had it was just like we need that. And like you said too, I have also met so many on social media and I'm like I love that you do that. I want to be more intentional about that, especially the ones that are within like the Chicagoland area to meet up with them more and just get together now that things are opening up again. But we need to have in-person interaction because it's real. The awkwardness now is weird. It's real. um, but nothing compares to that in person for sure.
Yes, I am really trying to take advantage of this warm weather that is on the horizon. Hopefully, by the time this episode airs, we will be like nice weather in spring. I know yesterday it snowed and I was like not here for it. We are in the Chicago area where at this time we don't know what weather we're going to get. But yes, I think we should take advantage of like the nice weather and like getting out, doing stuff outside, um, because it's needed. It's so needed. So glad you said all of that. Yes. And if you don't have any friends in the area, tell me. I'll do a girls' night. If anyone is listening, or yeah, if any of my listeners don't have family around or just want to get out, send me a DM. I'm always down to like do something. Um so as Latina, like what were have been some patterns or ideas that you have had to work through, especially as a creative?
Um, when I was in school, when I was in grad school, um, when I first started, there was a couple of us Latinos within the program, but I feel like Latinos and just um, women and men of color, period. There was just a couple of us. And then it just kind of dwindled down. And it was just like me and maybe just a handful of us. And one thing I noticed is something simple. Within presentations, I was very animated, with my hands, or just the way that I talked. It was different. It was more, I like to say, passionate, when it came to, and I would tell stories within my designs. And at first, I was like, man, I feel like I need to hone this down, but being in design school actually pushed it out of me and like taught me to realize that no, 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 we are needed, you know? And I would see it in the faces of the other, uh, my classmates and even my teachers. I would see like little smiles or giggles or smirks, and not making fun of me, but enjoying, my presentation just because of the passion that I brought to it. And so it took a while to accept me for me, but realizing, I feel like that is a lot coming from, who I am. Um, I'm going on a tangent again. I'm sorry. But um yeah, but just I feel like there was, at first I just felt like I had to be in a box, and I actually would literally with the podium stick my hands inside the podium, and so I wouldn't like move my hands so much when I talk, like little things like that, and tried just to literally squeeze myself into this box of what I saw others around me. And then I was like, you know what the heck, one day, and I said, I wanted to be more comfortable and just be myself, and so I did, and it was great. And I realized, like we're needed in these spaces. Um, so, but there was always the tight walk of being. I know our friend Jasmine had a whole little, almost like a campaign of like, "Are you Latina enough?" And I resonated with that so much because on one end I was too much, and on the other end I wasn't enough. I didn't speak it fluently. I, there was just so many other differences, and I just felt not Latina enough when I was with most of my Latina friends. So it's always been that balance, and I always think of Selena, resonating with that, but then seeing how she did it, how she pulled it off, and hey, like, no, we are who we are, point blank, and just be the best you can be. That's it.
Yes, I think that is um the something that I'm really trying to amplify is that being Latina is not like one certain way. And just because you don't speak Spanish or just because you're not this or that doesn't mean that you're not Latina enough. And who gets to judge how Latina you should be? So if people are trying to stifle any part of you, like, don't let it happen. I think what you said is like learning to accept your story, who you are, and just living it out is what I have been trying to do for myself to reprogram in my own mind and then also teach my kids to live into who they are because their story is going to be different from mine. And that doesn't make them less Mexican than me. It's just a different story.
I mean, that's the beautiful part about Latinos, right? That we're like, you literally can't put us in a box because we are all shapes and colors, and the way we speak is different. It's like we are so that's the beauty of it, you know? And that's what I love about us is you can't put us in a box, you know? Um, so much beauty and diversity always.
Yeah. So, is there any encouragement or advice that you would give to the next generation? And the next generation could be like your kids, or even the next generation of designers stepping into the world in the next few years.
Yeah, I would say simply just pursue simply what you love, you know? Pursue what you love, what you're passionate about. Some people are going to be on board, some people may not be on board. Um but staying true to, what really excites you. Um and it may be in the creative world. And I mean, nowadays the creative field is a lot more welcomed with open arms than it was for us. I feel like it was just very much shunned, like, you're not gonna make money, you're gonna be a starving artist type of deal, you know? But now it's celebrated. Now I feel like social media really has helped that. Um, but even if it's not, even if you come from a creative family and you want to pursue something non-creative, whatever it is, I would say just pursue it wholeheartedly. And if you don't know what you want to do, take it slow. You don't have to figure it all out. I think that's something that we just put the pressure on, especially those coming out of high school and in the college age. It's like this pressure to figure it all out right away. And I don't really agree with that because those are the years where you're truly figuring out who the heck you are. And that's how, you figure out what you want to do. Use those years to figure out who you are and to work on yourself. And yeah, maybe you're doing a job that's not your big career or whatever. Maybe you're just doing that just so you can get by to figure it out. That's okay. It's okay. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles right away. So I would just say, just slow down, go at your pace, and pursue what you love. Because I'll tell you now, like I said, I know God has a plan to like work in my undergrad of elementary education within some form in the future, but I wish I would have just stayed in that school when I enrolled in interior design and just pursued it in my undergrad. I feel like I would have so much even more, like just knowledge of design. Um, but I second guessed myself. So don't do that. Stay true to whatever it is that fuels you, and slow and easy.
That's perfect. This has been such an amazing conversation, and I'm so grateful that you have been just so willing to share your story and share from the heart. Before we go, why don't you share where people can find you? I know you said you're taking a break and figuring stuff out, but until then, people can. I think you, if you're listening, you got to go check out her Instagram because her designs are just beautiful. So where can people find you uh, even while you're on break?
Yeah, so right now it's mainly on Instagram. So Mylene underscore Raspado. You can find me there. I am working, we're in the works finally of getting this blog down and website down, and newsletter. So I actually, through Instagram, before I go on my break, I'll be sending out and getting, you know, those that want to join the email list and getting on the newsletter and all that. I will be, you know, making that happen. But right now, it's just Instagram. So come enjoy the fun while it's at, while we're there. And yeah, just come join the journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon.
All righty. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Mylene is such a light and inspiration in the interior design space, and also as a mom who's working towards building her business. I'm so thankful for her honesty as she shared her story. So go follow her on Instagram before she goes on her social media break. Okay, amigos, thank you so much for listening. There will be a new episode every Tuesday, so after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot and post on Instagram and tag at Elevating La Cultura, or send me a DM. You can also comment on this YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories and we can continue elevating La Cultura. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Bye.